Welcome to Prop Sutra, where we decode what's happening in India's real estate market. I'm Nicole and I'm joined by Mr. Balaji Rao. And today we're going to be discussing about India's office leasing market in Q1 2025. What drove growth, what slowed it down, and what we can expect going forward. So let's get started. Hi sir, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me over again.
So
Tell me.
today we are going to be discussing about India's office leasing market and how the market performed in Q1 2025. So I want to start off by asking you that we saw 5% growth in Q1 2025 in the office leasing market. But there's been so much of global uncertainty. So what do you think was driving this growth?
I think India's growth in the commercial market, though, is coupled with the global markets. At the same time, I think its whole fortune is based on other considerations. So, what we see in India is the rapid growth of not only the Indian economy coming of size and scale, where you have a lot of startups, lot of MSMEs coming back into the foray after the COVID and the demonetization. But you also see a sizable chunk, as you know, being taken up by the GCCs.
Correct.
See, these global capability centers by the international companies, Fortune 500 companies, they almost constitute now 45% of the absorption of the commercial market. And will that be growing? Yes. In spite of tariffs or anything, this is a cost saving measure for most companies.
Sure. So, like you mentioned about GCCs, do you think that there's going to be a lot of demand from local players as well? Or it's just the GCCs that's driving this growth as of now?
Uh, See, the GCCs are driving the growth because that's one of the anchor. Think
Sure.
about a 100% market where 45% is an anchor. So naturally, they're driving the growth. They're coming in hordes, literally, as we speak. But even the local industry is in the slipstream. Even if GCCs are driving it, the local industries are coming in the slipstream. And that's why, if you think of a concept called your co-working spaces, flexi spaces, it's all coming through because all your startups will rather be in that co-working space than start in a garage.
Sure.
You understand? So it's only now going to be more and more formalized, institutionalized, and you will see a lot more demand for this office space as we go forward.
So, since you mentioned the term co working space, do you think that this flex office space, as we term it, is going to be sustainable in the long run?
Oh, yes. I think it is here for keeps. Because you think of any segment, you will need across the spectrum different sort of products. So if a GCC maybe might demand a larger flow plate, maybe it's a cold shell, maybe a warm shell, a base shell, whatever you want. A startup might demand a plug and play office,
Correct.
correct? So if somebody can give him that entire spectrum, they will move towards the co-working spaces who takes it up and gives you the plug and play facility, whether you just need 3 desks and one cabin or 6 desks. So, is this going to be the future when you see a lot of different products, differentiated products coming up, even in the commercial sector? Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So, so what's happening, I think in Q1 2025, we've seen that there were a lot of projects which were not nearing completion date. I think they'll be due to enter the market maybe later this year or early 2026. At the same time, there are a lot of flex office players, for example, like Smartworks and Table Space. They're taking up over 2 million square feet between Mumbai and Delhi. Do you think that this is only going to be a landlord's market, or do you think that maybe it will shift and there'll be an oversupply situation?
See, in real estate, the first rule you should remember is not to generalize. So when we talk about macro numbers, it's very difficult to say, whether millions of square feet will get absorbed. So it's easy to say, I have 40 million square feet coming in this year and there's a demand of 52. Will it all fit in? No. See, in real estate, you have to go micro market. So there might be mismatches in micro market when vacancy rates will shoot up because there's a mismatch in that
Correct.
particular micro market. There's more supply than demand, and there will be a micro market where there's more demand than supply. If you look at typically the BKC, the CBD of Mumbai, there is more demand, in my opinion, than supply.
True.
That's why the rentals are so high. So if somebody is supplying more into BKC, will he be sitting on the sidelines? No. He will be driving the market. It would be a seller's market.
So, sir, like you mentioned BKC, we also know that BKC has very high rental numbers. And, many spaces are, I mean, there's not much vacancy at this point, but many spaces we've seen the increase has been between the 2 to 5% range. Do you think that with this supply coming, they can still continue to command those rentals or there'll be a correction?
You will continue to command. I was telling in one of the previous episodes that one of my favorite statistic is to quote this. And I don't know if you're aware of it. The India's total grade A space, which is construed as readable, is around 600-650 million square feet at the best. Okay, Manhattan alone in New York has 550 to 600 million square
500.
feet.
I've heard
So
this.
if you become a large economy, if we are trying to become the third largest economy, then naturally you will need far more office space that you can even envisage.
True.
So I'm not saying the prices will go up because price is always a demand and supply and it's a B2B game. It might remain stagnant. But will there be absorption for the space? Yes.
And do you think infrastructure plays a key role in this demand and supply?
Infrastructure plays a role.
Yeah.
It is the only role. No? Because without infrastructure nothing works. No? Because nothing can ever be an island in real estate. So even BKC will become more and more popular if only all the metro connections come. If the bullet train starts from there, you're right. So the more it's connected, the more it will become more and more as a hot destination for most corporates, isn't it?
True. And do you think with infrastructure developing, tier 2 and tier 3 cities, there'll be a lot of supply coming up in these areas?
They will come up, but it will be very cautious because people want to know whether people will move. And there has been a lot of speculation whether people, they have, some of the campuses have gone to Jaipur, Bhubaneswar, Indore, Ahmedabad, but there have been challenges also. It's not been
Yeah,
easy because you don't have the manpower there.
true.
The typical manpower there wants to migrate to Bombay or Bangalore. He doesn't want. But post COVID, I don't know how well it will play out. Uh, Maybe some of them will want to migrate back to tier 2 cities or even taste tier 2 cities because they're equally good sometimes, if you think. So there might be reverse migration, but it is going to be challenging. So somebody who says, I want to do commercial development in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city needs to be cautious about size and scale. You shouldn't do a large development in these cities because you need to be careful.
Because we've seen a lot of retail picking up in these cities recently. A lot of large players are entering these
See,
cities.
retail is going through a totally different makeover. Retail, I think we're absorbing about 12, 13 million square feet a year. So that's going through a completely different makeover. What is the makeover going through retail? Retail is of three types. You have the neighborhood shopping, what we call. You have a high street shopping, which was the earlier model. And today you have the mall shopping. Okay. Now think of a country like India, where your climate is not generally favorable for walking around and shopping. You will prefer a mall.
Correct.
That's one. Two, if you want to have an experience in shopping, because all your necessities you can get on the e-commerce sites, correct? So you want to be more having an experience. You want to go out for half a day with your children to a mall, take in a movie, have an outdoor meal. Then the mall is always in a better position to cater to that than the neighborhood shopping or the high street.
So, sir, do REITs play a role in the expansion of the commercial real estate market?
Excellent question. Because it is the REITs which are transforming the commercial segment. If you look at the commercial segment sector 20 years back, they were more dependent upon what we call strata sales. You build a commercial building and you had multiple owners because you
Correct.
were selling an office space of 5,000, 10,000 to each of those users. But today, like abroad, what you have is a REIT, which is nothing but a commercial landlord. So the REIT says that I will take over this as an institutional landlord or investor, and you all just pay me rent. You don't have to really buy your commercial property. Correct?
Correct.
So REITs do absolutely catalyze the commercial thing because to a developer, it is an exit option. He doesn't have to worry about selling commercial space or the sentiment and all that. He knows that if he gets the right tenants, he will get the right exit option because somebody pre REIT or REIT will take him out because it will become institutional worthy to be held as an asset yielding rentals as a return. So REITs are the cornerstone for any commercial market and even in the retail market. They're only right now we don't have them in the residential market, but that's also going to come. And the good thing about what SEBI has done is the SME REITs, what we call
Yeah.
the small,
Yeah.
that is going to also give an impetus to the smaller buildings or grade B buildings because everything need not be grade A in life.
Yeah.
They can be grade B, tier 2 cities. So it is giving them an impetus to come together and it also helps the retail investor from partaking and participating in the ownership of such commercial real estate. If I believe in commercial real estate, as a landlord, I can't go and buy something. But as a REIT investor, even a few lakhs is good enough to participate in that segment and get steady returns.
So, do you think REITs is a good investment for the retail investor
It's
in
an
India?
excellent investment because think about a REIT. It is collateralized by a physical asset. It is giving you a chance to participate in real estate without you having to have a large check to cut. Correct? And in a growth industry, a growth market like India, where rentals will keep going up, as you
Yes.
know, by 4-5% every year, it is inflation hedged. So your returns will always be above inflation.
Understood.
So, and it is safe because you have a property and the property is not development risk. You're only taking a leasing risk. So, which is much lesser and lower in a growth market than in a developed market.
So, what is your outlook for 2025?
In real estate,
Yes, for this commercial real
see,
estate market.
in commercial, I don't think there will be much of a pause because, as I said, commercial being B2B doesn't run too much on sentiment like
Yeah.
residential. Everybody is thinking ahead. And they also will be thinking positively that these tariffs and the volatility we are seeing in geopolitics, is it going to benefit India or not? In my opinion, it is going to benefit India because we are allied with US. We want to have bilateral pacts, so we are not taking a confrontational view. So it will. We are more on a collaborative path. So it will benefit India. So I would tend to believe commercial retail will not hit any major pause. There will be speed breakers, but it will be smooth sailing. Residential, on the other hand, might have because it's sentiment driven.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
You're
for the
welcome.
insights.
Thank you for having me over.
As India's commercial real estate market continues to grow and expand, staying tuned is your biggest advantage. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back next week with more news from the ground up. Thank you.